And that is one thing people should definitely internalize. If you get good at something, you're going to be fine.
It's not like I've been given this God-given ability to source. I'm good at it because I do it every day.
I sleep better at night because I don't have like $50,000 worth of inventory, $50,000 credit card bill and stuff like that.
If somebody was brand new today, like day one, like, hey, I'm just deciding where I'm going to go, I probably
If you don't have some ability to exponentially grow what you're building, is it really worth it?
Don't like the fact that everyone's talking about it because that's just never good.
I know it's rare, but let's just say a supercar and someone's selling it. I'm like, dude, this ain't it. But someone who's at 37, I would strongly encourage the younger people, and whether it's this or any other endeavor, you have such an advantage that you have nothing to lose. I actually think that Amazon sellers, especially good ones, would do very well with real estate. It's just a more high-ticket item.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today, we have Jonathan back. This is his third time on the podcast. We appreciate him doing this. He sells on Amazon. He has a beer bus business. He does a bunch of other stuff. So we're basically just going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, Amazon, Walmart, and just kind of what he's been up to. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, awesome to be back, guys. Like I was saying off air, always enjoyed chatting with you all, and it's good to catch up.
Cool. Yeah, 100%, man. So, well, you were telling me a little bit about what you were doing now. You're fixing up a house and stuff. Talk a little bit more about that. I'm sure it's a good way to get started here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well before Amazon, I always say I've bought and sold everything, right? And that includes homes back in the day. And I kind of got away from it for a little while as I started some other endeavors, Amazon, beer bus, John alluded to and stuff. But like now that I'm older, I look back and I'm like, damn, if I just hold on to those, I'd be sitting real pretty. And so I'm like, well, it's not too late to get back to it. And I kind of always known, for me personally, I've always just believed in real estate. If you're playing the long-term game, I don't want to say you can't lose, but it's kind of like you can't lose, especially if you have somewhat of a methodical approach over the long enough game, right? So like I always say to people, imagine you're on a 100-pound weight loss journey and you reach it. It doesn't mean that every single day you're going straight down your goal. Sometimes you'll be down 3 pounds, then you put on 0.2 pounds, but then you're down 4. You know what I mean? So my point is with real estate over time, it always goes up. Along the way, it might have little ups and downs, but on a long enough horizon, it always goes up. So anyway, all that to say, my whole thing is buy a distressed property, undervalue, fix it up. You could either flip it. What I'd like to do is hold on to rental properties for that long-term play and try to create my income elsewhere. Amazon, for instance, amongst other things. So yes, in my neighborhood, a house came up for sale by owner, which is unusual. Seller financing, which is unusual to get both of those. And I know the neighborhood incredibly well. It's got a main house. It's got a mother-in-law suite. And so we're fixing it up. I'm going to rent it out, refinance it. So the house will be worth more. We can go to a bank and say, hey, we want to refinance. In theory, we'll get most of our money back. Now we own a house. Tenants are paying off the mortgage and some, and it's going up over time over the course of many decades. That's the vision, right? And not unlike Amazon, you run comps, you run numbers. It's not just like, oh, I'm just going to buy this and hope for the best. Like it's very methodical. And I've done the flipping probably 3 times before this. So, and the fact it's in my neighborhood, I was just like, it was a good opportunity. So that's something that I'm currently working on like day to day.
Are you wanting to do more of that? Or are you going to how's the split right now? Because it seems like you have a lot of stuff going on. So how's the Amazon split compared to that kind of stuff? Especially
so for me, I mean, like, I've kind of reevaluated getting back into that. And I think something that's very, very realistic is like trying to do that with 2 properties a year. That's like my goal, right? For the next 5 years, let's say, so that in 5 years, I can have 10 properties. And I think that that's very realistic. Like I truly do. So as far as Amazon, the thing about Amazon, because I'm not in always scale mode, I'm pretty much done. Like I source pretty much every day still. I'm still a very early riser, and I pretty much source from like 6:30 to 9:30 every day. And that kind of, don't get me wrong, like I have to reconcile my prep sheet. I have to do repricing. That admin stuff, I find time for, right? But as far as like the meat and potatoes, that's my focused work early in the morning. The house stuff, I'm doing primarily at night. my tour company, the Beer Bus, is very weekend dominant. It's also kind of been slowed down in Asheville, where I live. Hurricane Helene, like, really, really hurt a lot of the city, not us whatsoever. So yeah, I kind of just think of it as like sprint and then maintain, right? And then you layer something on top of that. You sprint and maintain. Now, obviously, you can't do that forever, but yeah, I still kind of feel like I have more time that if I found something during the day, I could probably add to my plate as well. And as I said to you, Drew, like, I'm from home, my partner's from home, we have a toddler, like, we spend a ton of time with him too. And so I don't need to optimize for every opportunity to make a buck, because, like, I really value my time and I understand this won't last forever too. So, it's an ongoing thing, but it's a constant tinkering.
Yeah.
So.
What are you thinking about, like, the state of Amazon right now? I know it's changed a lot. We've been DMing a lot.
Yeah.
So I figured we'd kind of get into that.
Yeah, totally. I've thought about this a lot. Man, I have such mixed emotions, right? And it's like, I'll kind of probably go on a tangent here, just all over the place, because I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm curious your guys's too, but like, I'm in the trenches still every day. So, like, there's a couple things, right? For somebody like myself, who's put in 5 years, who I think is really good at sourcing, which is really the name of the game, right? I think that a lot of people were able to get by for a long time without putting in crazy work and seeing really good results. And I think that has tapered off. And because of that, people are like up in arms or not interested anymore. And, like, I get it. I'm not knocking that. And by the way, I know there's not a one size fits all. But for me, like, at this point, because I'm not necessarily trying to scale, I just want to hit my numbers being spend and, like, ROI and margins consistently. It doesn't take me that long to hit them. As I mentioned, 6:30 to 9:30 sourcing. So for me, even if it takes me more work to achieve the same results by a little bit, but even for me, it's not really, I don't really put in more time. It's just I haven't got the taper off. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of things, like, if you put in a bunch of hard work, you'd like to think that eventually you can, like, foot off the gas. My experience is that's not the case. I just have to currently still put in the same amount of time to achieve the same results. But for me, it's almost, I don't want this to sound like arrogant by any means, but, like, it's not like every day that I source, I can find what I need to find, right? I'm at that level. So I can't see any reason I wouldn't continue with this, right? Now, that being said, I fully understand why it doesn't work for a lot of people anymore, because, for one, it's a very cash intensive business. It's become harder, and there's more opportunities every day, and everything's an opportunity cost. So if you're doing this, you can't be doing that, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do for a lot less money and a lot less risk that might fit your personal, desires better. And, like, I totally get that. As far as Amazon, Amazon itself, I know we hear the horror stuff with the horrible gatings and stuff like that before Q4, like, stuff like that has seemed to always happen. I can't really gauge if it's worse or not. I think something I have thought about recently, though, like, sometimes when I leave, like, an online event with, like, people that are active and have been doing this a while, like, you guys, I think, know the other Alexa and Steve, like, they're incredible. And when they do it, I'm like, okay, well, they're absolutely crushing it. Now, I realize they're the 0.01%. So my point is this: depending on what room you're in, you'll hear and feel different things. So for them, still a great opportunity. For other people, it's like the worst thing in the world, right? And the truth probably typically lies somewhere in the middle. To tie this all together, it still works for me. I don't see any reason for me not to. But yeah, it certainly hurts having to constantly find new brands and stuff like that. I don't know how long this will last, but for my 3 hours in the morning, I'm willing to ride this until the wheels fall off, as I say.
I think you said something important there that kind of made me think about, me and John talk about this stuff basically with every guest. We have our own opinions on it. And I will say I'm way more guilty of this, of just kind of pointing out all the negatives of this stuff. And one thing that you're like, I don't want to be arrogant, but I'm just good at this shit, really. But it's like, dude, that's the reality too. Like, and I think that a lot of people might see, my takes or see someone else's takes on, like, how it's worse, and just use that as kind of cope to be like, oh, well, that's not why it's not working for me, because Drew said it doesn't work. It's like, well, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just proving all the reasons I don't like it as much as like anything else.
Right.
But for somebody that it's working for, and it's like, listen, I'm good at this. Why would I stop doing it? I'm still good. Yeah, I think that's something people probably need to hear, because it's like, you're not going to hear what I say about Amazon and go somewhere else. Like you're gonna experience that everywhere. There's going to be little problems at the other business you tried. It's like, well, then these group of people say it's bad. So I don't want to be on that side, like giving people cope fuel. I think your message is pretty good. And that is one thing people should definitely internalize. Like if you get good at something, you're going to be fine. It's not like all businesses are like that. So I'm happy you said that, because I don't think we've had a guest that kind of said that arrogantly, which I know you said not arrogant, but that's what needs to be said, man. I mean, that's the reality. And I think most people don't want to sound like that, but you don't even sound bad when you say it. You're just telling the truth.
Yeah. And it's not like it's not like I've been giving this God-given ability to source. I'm good at it because I do it every day. Like I'm good because I've put in the work. And that, you know what I mean? So like, that's why I'm comfortable saying that. And I think in general, like, yeah, like anything you commit to for 5 years, I promise you'll be good at. Like, and it could work for you, right? And like, you know, I don't know. I think something else is that people shouldn't get consumed with figuring out what's the best hustle, right? Everyone's criteria is so different. You have money, you don't have money, you have time, you don't have time, what you like doing, what you're good at. You know what I mean? All of these things to factor in. And there's no one right or wrong, but the consistency, no matter what it is, you have to do it and do it for a while. And then you'll be good, and then you'll have success. And, you know, and then anything could work, though. Like almost anything could work.
Yeah, one thing you said too about you don't know if it's gotten worse or not, like the people. And we just talked about this of like, is this really bad, or is it like a mania bad? Because I'll sit here and say it's bad. I'm not in tune at all, so I'm just like assuming. But is it like people, you know, the only people you see are the people with problems? So is it just like a bit of a mania of like, well, everybody's saying their problems, so I'm going to say my problems? When it's like your problems could be like a one-day problem. But if you see someone's tweet, that's a you keep that in your mind for 6 months, but for them it was just a one-day issue. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, look at just the news in general. Negative stuff sells. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that Amazon people are posting it to sell necessarily, but I don't post about Amazon successfully receiving my package, right? You post about Amazon losing your one out of 20,000 that I've sent in over the last 5 years, right? And I do think something to what you said, Drew. I think sometimes when people are on the fence, they look for a reason. So you're giving them an out if you're somebody that's respected and you know what you're doing and why it may not work for you. Like, I'm not saying that's not the case, right? But for someone that hasn't even done it themselves, it's like, look, there's my out. I don't even need to go any further. Whew, thankfully, it's not my responsibility because X, Y, and Z said it. You know what I mean? And they know more than I do.
Yeah, man, you're right. I do. Once you said that, it kind of made me think, man, maybe I should just not be as harsh on this, because maybe hindering people's like goals with stuff. Maybe that's why people don't like when I say it too, because I hear some people just like kind of talk shit about it. But and John does a little bit. He's less than me though. He's more of just like go with the flow about it, I think.
Yeah.
I think kind of how you put it is like actually perfect, because I think what the big takeaway for me is you were just like, this works for me. This still works for me, right? So for me, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, where I got really heavy into the influencer program, and every day it works even better for me. And OA is just kind of like, I don't know, I like this other thing so much better, and it's really starting to pick up steam. So I'm spending like probably 90% of my time doing the influencer program. So that just works better for me, and OA doesn't work as good for me at this point in my life. And it's like, well, it'll always probably be there, number one. The influencer program, I don't really know if it'll always be there, but
Right.
for now, it's working. I sleep better at night because I don't have like $50,000 worth of inventory, $50,000 credit card bill, and stuff like that. So I think that's for everyone. If I've learned anything, the influencer program too is by no means easy. Like me and Drew were doing the math the other day. Like I have 2,300 videos. That's like making 7 videos every day.
Yeah.
Or 365 days, right? So yeah, you're only making a 30-second video, but I've been like tracking all my time. and by outreaching to people, getting the stuff, making the video, uploading it. And yes, this could all be outsourced, but it takes like 8 minutes per video, hypothetically. So not just a minute to film it or redo it or look up some information. So I think for most people, they just kind of have to look in the mirror and just be like, yeah, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. Does this work? Does it not work? And I think, I don't know, the internet is not helping Instagram, and because people are pushing. I think what's really going on, I've seen like all the gurus and stuff like that, they're like, oh, FBA search volume is so down on Google, so like this is the time to get in, like everyone else got out. And it's like, no, like it's just kind of not what it used to be. And I think, I don't know, would you recommend someone to get started on Amazon today?
If somebody was brand new today, like day one, like, hey, I'm just deciding where I'm going to go, I probably wouldn't, but I also probably wouldn't put them in a lot of directions, but to be honest. So like, it's not just an FBA thing. I think in general, like okay, let me step back, because I'm not just saying this to like be PC, like everyone's situation is just so freaking unique, right? But one thing that I think all Amazon sellers should consider, influencer program, anyone doing the side hustles, right? You clearly take initiative. You clearly have an entrepreneurship drive. I would encourage people to put that same energy, time, and focus into something that can build equity, right? And what I mean by that is like a business that you could maybe sell one day, or just because I mentioned, real estate or whatever, or I guess more of like something that isn't dependent on third parties, right? So the influencer programs are dependent on Amazon and other third-party platforms. FBA is third-party platforms. One swift move and it's done for all of us, right? And now listen, I'm not saying to live your life that way, but just to like bring it back, knowing what I know now, or even private label, to be honest, because you're doing Amazon, you're just playing a different game in Amazon, but have the upside of the equity play, right? And so I think that's something, knowing what I know now, like, again, I've talked about this, nothing is sellable about arbitrage. When you're done, right? There's little things you can do to try to like Drew, what you did, very smart, but it's selling your information at best. It's not so, but yeah, I mean now, and I say that too, because I don't think people talk about this enough. I don't think it's realized enough. Amazon really, you need money to play the Amazon game, the arbitrage game, a lot. And either you're going to start very small and take a lot of time, or you're going to use high interest credit, and stuff like that, or you're going to use your own money, and that comes with risk too, right? So like to give you some context, if I had the utmost confidence in Amazon that my brands or nothing would get stranded and I did things the right way, I would be comfortable spending double, triple what I spend. That's what holds me back. Like the concept of finding profit low, selling it high, I can do that all day long. It's knowing that if I buy a 50 of these, it could go stranded tomorrow and I have nothing to predict that, right? So I guess I wouldn't knock Amazon FBA more than anything else for somebody starting, unless they truly don't have money. Then I'm just like, there's so many other things you can do without the upstart capital that like, I don't really see the huge advantage versus so many other things.
It's similar. We just did a solo pod, so maybe if people don't watch this and they watch this one, I'll say what I say, because it's similar to what you just said. Like I'm going to make a video on this and put it somewhere. There's just like all these businesses, and you have to figure out like what can get you rich or free. Like, what do you want out of the business, for one? And then when you decide to pick one, there needs to be something where you can build equity or get a huge multiple on your hours. So like Amazon FBA, like where it's not sellable, you work X hours and you're making X per hour. But if you do something like, real estate, you can work on these houses, and then in like 10 years, that work you did was like 5 times the amount of money that you actually did. And you don't realize that now, but like in 5 years, you've basically just made all that money for those hours you worked in. And there's only like certain businesses that allow you to do that, or to like get lucky. Like, what happens if your area, I don't know, man, they put some plant there that puts in 70,000 jobs. Now your house automatically doubles in value. So you just got lucky and double your money. Like, if you don't have some ability to like exponentially grow what you're building, is it really worth it? That's one of the big reasons I got out of the Amazon stuff. Cause it's like, okay, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow. My inventory is going to be 5X. That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's just something that I don't know, people don't consider. I don't ever hear people talk about it, but it's like, how much is the work you're doing actually worth? And can it just explode randomly? Can you just go viral on the internet and make 500 grand on accident? That type of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that it's just not talked about, but that's really important, especially when people are going to dump countless hours into these businesses.
Right. It's something I've thought about a lot. I'll share with you. I think this could be valuable of like how I view Amazon to me, right?
If you're still listening to the podcast at this point, you are into it and a fan, and we really appreciate that. If you could do us a solid and like, subscribe, and do all that stuff, it really helps the podcast grow. And secondly, if you could tag us on Instagram, just take a picture of what part you are at the podcast. If you like it, tell us what you think about it. Tag me at Side Hustle Experiment, and I will definitely share it. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Basically, like for the things like real estate, just because we're using that example, that's essentially passive income. You do the upfront work, you set it and forget it, and let time do its thing, right? So for me, I view Amazon as a replacement to having to work a normal job. That's about it, right? A normal job, you go in, you come out. There's no equity play. There's no, what your salary is, you know what you have to do. So for me, essentially the meat and potatoes of my work are 3 days, and I make a decent amount that would, be at my stage in life, like a normal job, right? Like, and actually beyond that, to be honest with you. So like when you factor in that stuff, it's like, okay, to me, this is giving me money to live my life, to by all means, like, but to save some on the side. And what I want to do with it, the same way as if I was working a job, save, park it into whatever it is that you're into. So for me, it's homes, right? Whatever it is. But like, that's why I'm just one of the reasons it's not just reinvest in Amazon, reinvest in Amazon, reinvest in Amazon. Like, unless you're the other Alexa and Steve, who and other people, of course, to them, it's like it all makes sense because they're doing just bazooka numbers, right? But for me, again, I just see it as a replacement to a much, much, much better replacement than having to go work a normal job, right? I don't, even though it's a business, I don't think of it as a business. It's like I've created a business/job for myself that is way better than 99% of the ones out there, that I live on my terms, when I want to do it, where I want to do it, etc. Right? So that's kind of how I think about it. And I also think about it, I don't think I've heard it talked about it like this. Because cash flow could take a while to figure out too, I almost think of it as like a quote unquote net worth builder, not even like a paycheck. So, because let's just say I spend 50K on inventory for a round number, right? And I'm hoping to, after everything, bring back to my pocket, 65, let's just say, right? Well, that all might be on Amazon shelves. So 65K of net worth is on their shelves, but it's not in my pocket, right? And it's a very slow drip, and it takes you a time to really figure out how to like control cash flow. And even then, things can be out of your control. If Amazon takes an extra 2 weeks on all of your products 1 month, right? So it's all there, but it's not nearly as liquid as a normal paycheck as well. And that's something that people have to understand as well. And that's why I group it into net worth, because it's like, it's there and the inventory is worth something, but it's, you know what I mean? It's like a little different.
Yeah. It's almost like an investment,
Right.
I literally saw this happen. I did it for years, and then eventually I sold all my inventory, and I'm like, oh, I'm pretty rich. I didn't know that. So like
Right.
you would never know that when you're selling, because you're like, am I poor? Am I rich? Like, I think I'm making money, get all this go away. But it's like, once you sell it all, you're like, oh, I see exactly what you're saying. It's like one day
Yeah.
when you do get out of the business, you're just going to have a big lump sum of cash that you've just accumulated over
Right.
time. So
Right.
yeah, I'd never hear people talk about that either, but I've experienced it firsthand. You're right. That is what happens.
Yep.
I like how you put it too, that it's basically a job, because no one really talks about that. They all talk about, oh, it's passive income, like you set it and forget it and all this other stuff. But it's basically a job. I mean, you get paid every 2 weeks unless you have daily payouts. I guess Amazon is your boss, right? You have to play by their rules. You got to do what you got to do. but it also gives you like ultimate time freedom to kind of live how you want to live and do what you want to do. So I'd agree with you there. Like, it's definitely worth, it's better than working a job for sure.
Heck yeah. I think for most people you can make a lot more than a normal job. But again, like if I have a kid, or if you just say, hey, like, by the way, knowing what I know now, I could still work a full-time job and not dip off on Amazon at all, just hypothetically if I wanted to, right? So like, just to show you, you can truly do it even if I didn't have to do it every day. Like, that's another beauty. I could go ham on the weekends or 2 nights a week, I don't know, like, and spend 6 hours sourcing. I just like the way I do it because for a variety of reasons. But yeah, I mean, it just comes to a point. If you're not always in scale mode, then you're just at getting better mode. So it shouldn't take you longer. And now you can supplement that with other things as well around your lifestyle. That's really what I think so great about it.
Yep. Well, to switch a little bit, I know that John was asking about content and stuff. So I think the last time we talked, you were kind of getting into the content. You want to start an offer and that kind of thing. Since you've been in the real estate, it seems like you've tied your time up with other stuff. And I'm not on social media, so maybe I'm just unaware. But are
Yeah.
you thinking about like how you're going to branch out to the info and that kind of thing? Is that like a big goal? Because you talk about Steve and Alex, and we had Steve on here. I think one thing that benefits these really big sellers is they have supplemental income with their info stuff. It's
Right.
like, it just lets them cushion so they can take this massive risk and make more money, which like we all know that. So is that kind of a goal at all anymore, or how you think about
Man,
that?
I've really struggled with this, to be honest. So like on one end, because I am an active seller and I know what I'm doing, like I know I can literally make infinite, like there's so many micro decisions every single day that I'm making that are valuable to share, right? But what I struggle with is that it takes a lot more. It just takes time, dude. It just takes freaking time. And then so I asked myself, well, what is the game I'm playing? Like, what would be the end goal, right? Not, and again, to preface, not knocking what anybody does. I don't want to lead a group. I don't want people dependent on me. I don't want to have to show up every week. So the only thing I can really think of is selling some informational stuff. Like I've talked to you guys before. I think I'm really good at Keep a Product Finder. And I think if people got good at that, that alone could make you a very successful seller, and just about sourcing in general. Now, do I do that in course form? Do I do that in a quarterly, like live? I don't know. But if I have to funnel people through constantly making content, I don't know that that's how I want to spend my time, to be very honest with you. Honestly, when I try to run numbers sometime, again, everything's an opportunity cost. Let's just play devil's advocate. I'd love to hear you guys. Okay. Let's just say I sold something for $300 that was incredibly valuable, a sourcing guide, and I got 10 people to buy it a month, right? So that's $3,000. That's not bad by any means. Don't get me wrong. Do I think that 10 people a month? I don't know. Like, I don't know. And how much time and content do I have to continuously put out for the foreseeable future to make that a reality? Now, if somebody told me like, hey, 100% that's realistic and you can do that, then yeah, I think $3,000's worth making a couple good videos a week, right? But like, if it's like, I guess I should say this, I don't really see a downside of making something like that. I've planned this for a long time, and I think I could probably knock out the actual filming, putting it together, whatever. So like, there's no real downside, but it's really hard to make content when I have the sourcing, the other business, the house, the kid, and it's something you have to have blind faith in would eventually lead to something. And I've been doing that for years, and I'm just like, it's like kind of poor timing. And like, I feel like the trend of Amazon is like people are certainly on the downside. And I can say this, I partnered with Dave, OA Deals, who's an awesome guy, great Amazon seller, for his leads list. And last year, I think it sold out. And this year was like a fraction of that, so that was really eye-opening to me, just I think where the average seller is on Amazon is way down. So yeah, I guess all that to say, I've said this out. I mean, saying it out loud makes it obvious. Like I should absolutely do that. I'm not willing to do it at all costs. That's not like my next huge play. I think I'd rather put things into things that I think could be a better ROI on the time. But that being said, I have all this information, like to put something together wouldn't be crazy either. Feel free to chime in. I'd love to hear.
I think that's a really good point. I think in today's landscape, I think you're right. I think selling on Amazon is kind of on the down slope. And I feel the hard part is if you don't like making content, you're going to have a rough time, because the
Right.
only way to sell this stuff is to be constantly making content, coming on the podcast, doing the people who are selling courses, like whether they are selling or not, like their full-time job is making videos, posting them, getting people to sell. They have the team. So who you're competing against is absolutely insane at this point, because most of them are just doing coaching and offers full time. So I think that's really hard. And like you said, like it makes sense. Oh, if I could sell 10 a month at, 300 bucks. But the reality of that is you're really going to have to be pitching that nonstop. Like it's not just going to magically happen. Someone's going to like
Yeah.
come across your reel, click your bio. There's going to be more to that, which I think makes it hard. And then we've talked about this before too. Obviously, you could definitely, it's really hard to teach when you're actually like a seller, right? Because you're going to have to give away something. And as we go through in time, like it used to be like no one talks about ungating. There's a million videos about how to go ungated, the place to go. No one used to talk about Keepa. Now there's a million videos on Keepa. So like as these edges like start to go away, you really just have to reveal your own loops and edges, and then that affects your business. So now is that really worth the $3,000 a month to kind of give away those secrets? So I agree with you 100%. Like if you don't want to do this full time and basically be a content creator, then yeah, info might not be,
Yeah.
I don't know, the best route.
Are you making content now, like at all?
Not in a methodical way. Like I kind of, it's ebbs and flows. I was just like, I mean, literally, like I could sit down and knock out video after video. I have a booklet of all, when I have an idea, I just write it down, but like, I'm not really active. I go through ebbs and flows, but like, it's hard because I think that, again, if it was guaranteed, it'd be so much easier. Obviously nothing's guaranteed because then I can quantify my time versus dollar amount, right? But I will say this with Amazon and coaching or anything in general. When things are so good, when you're promoting something that is such a good opportunity, I feel like your time would just be better spent doubling down on that great opportunity than worrying about teaching someone else how to get involved in the great opportunity. You know what I mean? Now, I will say, I do think it's good to hedge your bets, and that is pure cash flow, right? So I understand that, and I'm not knocking people that do that. Like, if you can get it, great. But like, to me, it's so obvious who is a content creator around Amazon and who is an Amazon seller who makes content about Amazon, right? Two very different, and it's very, very easy for me to discern, but I understand that like if you're a newbie or a young kid, like it's not, and I'm not even knocking that. I'm just saying like some people, that's where they make their money, and other people it's making it from selling, and it's like, again, not a one size fits all, but I don't know where I'm at with it, or I don't know. Something's kind of. It also, I noticed, took up a lot of mental space. I got to make a video. I gotta do this. I gotta post once a day, and I'm like, dude, all this mental space and energy. Maybe we just park it elsewhere, And like right now, I'm working on that house. Like if that'll be if I missed out on that because I was concerned about making a course just for, it's not a real life example, apples to apples, but like, it wouldn't even be close. You know what I mean? Like not even a close comparison. When I think about that, I'm like, you just got to really decide where you're going to spend your, you can do anything. You can't do everything. That's really the best way to summarize it.
Yeah, I think one thing too, it sounds like this is a little bit of the problem too, is there's like a bit of a resistance of, you have like all these resistances of like why you should do this or not. But it's not like you're like, I'm not going to do it, So there's just something holding back of like, how can I make this work in the right way? And give this little piece of advice, which take this or not. But I hope you can follow through with this, and I think it'll work out for you, especially because I know you, somewhat well. Talked to you like 5 times long form at this point. I would just throw a Calendly link in your bio for a coaching program and charge $12,000 for 4 months or something. And I think here's what you could do is you don't have to put shit together. All you do, you source every morning. You're very methodical about this stuff. You just record your sessions. You give away a lot of the stuff. You're going to give it to one person. You don't have to sell 10 of them. I'm sure you'd be happy to sell 10. There you get 120 grand. But make it, 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, something ridiculous where you're like, no one's ever going to buy this. Good. That's what you need to think, because you don't really want to do it that bad. But if someone does get on this call and you say it's that much money, hey, you have my personal cell phone number. You can bother me anytime. Like, this is a big commitment, though. I think then you can just make content as you want. And the people that would ever pay you money, it's going to be worth your time. And they're going to be people that really, really like you. And then that solves all your problems of like, well, now you're not obliged to make content because you don't even think anybody's going to buy it anyways. And if you do make good content, somebody does buy it. Now you're happy you sold it, because that's your course scenario times like 50 people.
Right.
So I would consider something like that.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Because now you have big upside on like, and no worry. And you know that if somebody pays you 15 grand, I know you're not going to you're going to make sure that person wins. And your whole thesis of, you need to get good at this to make money, it fits your whole thing. So I think you just have less resistance, and it doesn't take any effort. You just make a Calendly, it's free. Put it up there and be like, hey, this is a serious financial commitment. Do not book this call if you're not serious. And then get on there and do it. Okay. Yeah, I think that you like the idea at all?
No, I'm into it. I mean, it kind of fits, because also, like, you're right. Like, I will say this: if somebody put that much faith in me, like, I am going to make sure that we can quantify that it's paid back on the leads alone. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I'm doing it anyway. So sharing a lead with those leads with one extra person, if it was just one person, would be like, it wouldn't affect even me selling it. You know what I mean? So
if it's 3 people a year, that's let's say you charge 12, 15 grand a person. Yeah, dude, that's like, now you made an extra 50 grand. You're not going to rip 50K from your business. No way,
Do you think that there's people out there willing to pay that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
I've had them. So somebody paid me. I remember at the end of my coaching stint, I was like, okay, I'm going to start with 10 grand. I'm going to up this every time somebody gets on a call with me until somebody's like, dude, what are you saying? And I had someone that almost paid me 12,000. I told him that was the price. And he's like, what? Why would I? Like, this is crazy. I'm like, yeah, man, I really don't want to do this. So if you pay me that money, I promise you, I'm going to just give you the whole business. Like, I'll literally be with you all the time. And somebody paid me, 5 figures. And I still talk to that guy to this day. I helped him with a bunch of stuff, and he's became like a good friend online. So you also develop like good relationships, because the person, dude, nobody's going to pay you that money unless they're like a very serious, and they have money. This guy had already so much money that was a drop in the bucket. So that's another thing too. You're going to get people who are like, you seem like a serious guy to make this work. And I think a lot of people could just do that, and they would see more return than grinding the content daily to funnel people into some bullshit product that's not even going to make them. Like, that's the way to do it, and you'll feel better about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. There's not a whole lot of downside to that. Like you said, I'm sourcing every day anyway. It wouldn't really be a whole lot of extra work. I like that.
I do too. I feel like if you could offer like that high-end membership, like almost they could source with you in the morning. Like, I feel like at a certain point, if they source with you for 30 days in a row, like every morning or whatever, like that would save them like a year's worth of like trial and error. And they would definitely, I think that would be worth it for sure for most.
No, I'm into that. I like that.
It's just no downside. And like, especially if you go into it with like, I want, like, really, when you said like the price of it, just make it where you're like, there's no shot somebody's going to buy it. And then like somebody will one day and you'll go, what the hell? Like, whatever. Like, that's cool. Now I have a 15 G's in my bank. So that's a good way to do it. I think a lot of people, if there's any content people out here, you should take that into consideration, because more people will pay you than you think. Like, I think we think the world's small, just because, I don't know, man, like you see, okay, I get a few hundred views on this video or whatever. Like, there's just not that many people, but there's like so many people, and you never know when there's some millionaire who just is like, I'm going to learn from you. I'm going to be the best. It's like, it could happen at any time.
Yeah. I like it.
What else you got, John?
Have you done anything with Walmart?
Yeah. So it's interesting actually, because last year I was my hand was forced. I think we might've talked about this, but had a lot of products gated very quickly, vitamins and supplements, moved them to Walmart. That was really my start to it. In theory, it makes a lot of sense to me, right? But my problem is this, because in theory, it makes complete sense to me. Like, hey, diversify, buy 10 here, sell 2 here, right? The fact of the matter is, Amazon is velocity and a lot of times premium price, right? So for me, I'd have to spend probably a decent bit more time than I already do to start that diversification process. And again, logically, that would make sense. But like, it's just, I have my routines. I'm getting done what I need to on Amazon. So it's like I'm not so pressed to have to use Walmart. I kind of still use Walmart as like an offloading thing. I know people are using it full time. I know people are anti Amazon or whatever. Like, but again, we all play different games, different categories, different products. So like for me, if I can figure out a way, and because I'm not in scale mode, keep that in mind too. Like I want to spend X amount and that's it, right? So because of that, and I'm having no problem fulfilling that with Amazon alone, I'm kind of just like, I don't want to have to go through that learning curve right now. You know what I mean? So that's just where I'm at. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just not really active with it or pursuing growth on it.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a different skill set to build too. I don't know, John, I'm curious what you think about this. What do you think about Walmart? I'd say we've talked to 30 people so far that everyone says different stuff. Like, I don't really even know. What do you think about it, John?
I mean, it's hard to kind of give an opinion based on that I haven't sold anything on it, but I'll give my hesitance to selling on it. Number one, I think for me, kind of like Jonathan said, I'm very focused on the influencer program. Like, I don't need another thing to kind of like distract me. Definitely a different learning curve. Don't like the fact that everyone's talking about it because that's just never good. I do think, yeah, I don't know. I think that is, and oh, that was my other thing. I do think Walmart will be like Amazon in like 2 or 3 years, just because everyone's talking about it. You're bringing people who already have the skill set on one platform and bring it to another. It's not like you really have to learn a whole new skill set. So it's not like you're starting Amazon brand new. It's like you already know what to do. So it's going to be way easier to scale up your Walmart business. And then I'm already seeing on Twitter like Walmart's, gating some stuff. Like it's going to be the same shit in 2 or 3 years. And it's like, I don't want to dedicate 1 to 2 years learning it and then be in the same spot I am or have the same feelings I have with Amazon right now, where it's just everyone's doing it, you're putting in more work and not necessarily getting more out of it. I don't know. That's kind of my take and my hesitancy. I know a lot of people, and we've had them on the podcast saying it's so much better. But I also think they're saying there's a lot of issues over there as well. And another reason everyone's going over there from Amazon, and a lot of the people who are doing that have had problems. So I think they bring that same bad behavior over to Walmart, and then it gets clamped down. I'm sure Walmart's going to increase their fee. It's going to be Amazon all over again. This is a great opportunity. Oh, now you can't send everything in. You can only send this much in. And now we need to do this. Like, it's going to be the same thing, I think. I hope not. I hope everyone freaking crushes Walmart. But that's kind of why I'm not going over there. I'd rather do the influencer program, have no capital at risk. If that goes away, I have a million other avenues that I could attack doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I also think that like if you're against reselling in general, like Walmart's not the move. Like you're not eliminating capital problems and stuff like that, And I've heard a couple people, I really can't speak to this, that do RA have done really well with Walmart. I'm solely OA at this point. I've really gotten into some like higher level beauty products, and like I can't even sell those on Walmart, and like if so, for a fraction of the price. So yeah, just for me, it kind of just fits. I think it's great to have for a back pocket offloading. From those things I sent, I found one or two. I will say I do understand what people mean though. Like there's one or two items that do incredibly well, but there's not a whole lot of data. So like no one else would really know that they're doing incredibly well. I know they're doing incredibly well because I did it on Amazon, then it got kicked off at Amazon, and now it's on Walmart where there's no data for people to sneak up on it, right? And so like if you had 5, 10, 20 of those, I can see where it's like, this is Amazon 10 years ago, right? I also think that the better Walmart gets, in theory, that's better for Amazon sellers because it's legitimate competition for Amazon. Now, I imagine that Walmart is so leaps and bounds behind Amazon that they're not even like, I shouldn't say they're not concerned, but like, if they're taking away a chunk of their business, I'd like to think it forces Amazon to have to like tweak some things or get a little better at certain things, that maybe are the reason sellers left to begin with. Now, that might be wishful thinking, but conceptually, competition is usually good.
That's one other thing that before I forget. I feel like a lot of people, and we had Sarah on the podcast, and she alluded to this. They don't know their numbers, so
Yeah.
like, there's no like inventory labs from Walmart as recording this podcast. So like, I don't really think anyone knows. Like, we've had some people on here and be like, yeah, like it's profitable. Like, I'm able to pay off the credit card bill or whatever they're doing, and they're able to like do what they need to do. But it's not like, hey, here's my inventory lab numbers, or
Right.
that's not even a great metric either. Like,
Yeah.
working with an accountant is better. But for argument's sake, there's no inventory lab, so everyone's like, "Oh, this is amazing." It's like, is it? Like, I don't know.
Right.
Like, you have these big sales numbers, and it seems like the fees are easy to calculate, but then like when you dig down with someone, they're just like, yeah, like, yeah, it's good. Like, so that's another reason for me. I'm just like, eh.
I love Sarah. She's great. She's really on top of it. Good attitude, and just like she seems to crack the code.
Yeah, I think the big pro in my head with this stuff, that from the conclusion, like me and John got accounts on there and we looked, but like overall from what I've heard, the fact there's no tech and like you said, there's no data, that's a huge benefit to sellers, because if people are quitting Amazon because they can't figure it out, they're definitely going to quit Walmart. So like the less data you have, the better for the seller. As much as people probably don't like that, the more tech that gets involved, more coaches, all this stuff, that's the worse it gets. But like you said, Walmart's so behind Amazon. I don't have the numbers, but I'm assuming it's like leaps and bounds, like you said. Like if you're moving from Amazon to Walmart, your bet is basically that Walmart is going to come close to eclipsing Amazon in terms of volume and not competition, because if like it's just a math problem. If Amazon has way more sellers and way more volume, and then Walmart has no sellers and less volume, the more sellers that go over there don't bring more selling volume. It's not like everybody's like, I sign up for a seller, I tell 10 of my friends to buy on Walmart. It's not the way it works. So will the volume and the demand like eclipse the sellers on Walmart? There's no way. Like I'm never shopped off Walmart unless it's just that's the only place I had to get it. So I don't really see. And how are they going to crack market share? Amazon's got their whole own ecosystem of fulfillment. You can order stuff and get it the next day. Walmart uses like DoorDash or something. So I just don't really see the vision there on how the sellers are going to go up, but the demand's also going to go. It's just not like, that's not the way it's
a good example. I mean, like, I think there's enough there that for like the really good sellers, sure. Sarah, Tracy, you guys know Tracy, right? I'm like, again, back to what we said earlier, anybody can win at anything, right? Not everybody, but I think if you're just like, hey, I'm fed up with Amazon, so I'm going to Walmart, if you're not bringing a certain level of skill, it's irrelevant. You know what I mean? So, and I would say to the data thing on one end, if you know what you're doing, yes, that can be very advantageous, because like I hop on listings a lot of times based on data, right? I can go to Keep, I could say, right? But if I didn't know that the seller count's going down and the price has been trickling up, like I might just not even touch this product. You know what I mean? So like I totally get that as well. Like if you know what you're doing, lack of data can be advantageous. If you don't know what you're doing, then you really don't have any data to pull from to make an educated guess the way that you could with Keepa when you first started out on Amazon, from my understanding.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like the only way you can even make educated guesses on Walmart is just based off your own intuition, which changes it like completely. Then you have like a whole different skill set to where how can you even teach that to someone? You just see something and you're like, well, I know from past experience, or I saw this on, sold out of the shelves like that. That's just a bunch of weird stuff. But that is an edge, a massive edge, especially if you're tapped into consumer products, I guess.
Something I think you're going to see grow a lot, which is already. Are you guys familiar with What's Not?
Whatnot? Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah. So the live shopping experience, I would never dabble with that, but I'm like, oh, some of these. I listened to a podcast actually with a guy that does like 7 million in OA, and he uses that to offload beauty stuff that becomes restricted or whatever. And I'm like, that's interesting. There's also an advantage there because a lot of people, probably not on like the influencer program, don't like showing their face, right? Or are uncomfortable doing that. And so if you're willing to do that, that's another I guess I just like that there's more offloading opportunities as there's more headaches with Amazon gating and stuff like that. You know what I mean? As long as it was continue at the same rate, the worst is buying. You get stuck with something from Amazon that's like for some reason only sells well on Amazon, nowhere else. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it's funny. We did a prediction podcast at the beginning of the year, and my prediction, like biggest one, was that there will be some new thing that emerges that's like a live shopping,
mm,
something to where people can doom scroll and they can buy.
yeah,
Whatever like takes the first mover of
yeah,
that is going to be crazy. Especially, TikTok, they kind of hide the process. You don't know if you're getting sold to, but you have an app, and Amazon does this with the influence program, like the different stuff they have. But if Whatnot can be the leader there, I think that's going to be like billion-dollar company, like
oh yeah,
billions of
I think
dollars.
it's huge. It merges shopping with
Brain rot.
scrolling. Yeah, I mean, and it's almost honestly. I mean, this is old school, but like you guys know of QVC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
100%.
almost like a modernized QVC personalized into like 1 minute clips. You know what I mean?
Yep, QVC changed like everything. So this is somebody can talk to you. Imagine like the ladies that shop on
Sure.
QVC and watch it all day. Now the people will say their names.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's like a
Yeah.
crazy opportunity. And you
That's
can
one.
watch who you want. You can shop for exactly what you want, not just what's
Yeah.
on QVC.
Yeah. No, it's
I,
crazy.
I need to look up the stock price of that company. Maybe that's something to invest in, man. Like I
I,
don't see how that fails.
I think that is definitely a huge trend coming, no doubt about it. I mean, I think it's here, but like that's going to go big for
Yeah.
sure.
Especially when you can get the VR stuff as that grows, I think that'll help
Yeah.
too. You can put your goggles on and shop too, like that kind of stuff. I don't think we're as far away as like we think from that. And then when it happens, it'll happen quick. Just like all these apps and these platforms, it's like you wake up the next day and you're like, "What? People are making $100,000 on that? How are they doing that?" Just the way it works.
I got a question for you guys. Speaking of tech, it just made me think of something. I'm curious if anyone on the pod has mentioned this or you guys have thought about this, but like, how do you see, obviously AI has been incredibly prominent in the news and it's going to just keep getting better and better and better. I kind of know what I don't know. Like I can't see how that doesn't change the landscape of OA. Like, have you guys ever had those discussions about what it's going to look like in a couple of years, if or why it's not going to matter, that type of thing? Have you guys ever had anyone on talk about like AI apps or anything like that regarding OA?
We had Dylan Carter. Is that his name?
Yeah.
From Go Aura. He was like really smart about this stuff. That's the only person we've had on that knows
Okay.
like probably more than me, because most people are just like, like you said, they just don't know what they don't know. Because
Right.
I played with it a lot last year. Personally, I think that like when that stuff speeds up, it'll eliminate a lot of these models. Like like the OA stuff, it'll just become so. Arbitrage is all about inefficiencies, right? Like if there was no inefficiency in the market, Amazon FBA wouldn't exist. It's all based on where can you find inefficiencies. And the more tech and the more AI stuff, and that eliminates that gap to where the market's very efficient. It'll be AI stuff might not necessarily help like sellers. Like I don't know if there's going to be some software that's like, oh, you put in all this brand and it just shops around the internet and finds you coupon codes. Maybe to an extent, but it'll be more so companies will just go, okay, we're all going to price match. Like there will be no inefficiency on like one website compared to Amazon, because they already have that kind of tech. But the more efficient that it'll be real time, like a stock market of items. That's what I would think. That's not what he said or anything, but my speculation is that it just becomes way more efficient, which is like bad for
Yeah.
people doing that, obviously.
I
Yeah.
agree with that too. I think there will be like, I'm not like super familiar, but I do think there'll be like, you'll be able to make like your own like chat agents or something like
Yeah.
that, where you could just like scrape the internet and just basically it would almost source for you. Where I think it could hurt sellers the most is if Amazon uses AI more and more, which is probably why there's lots of problems with Section 3 and all this other stuff, because they just have these computers like running through all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, Jonathan's account looks a little weird today. Like, let's flag him or whatnot. And then you are probably trying to talk to like a customer service rep, but it's like AI. So you can't get your problem resolved. So I do think it could get worse in
Yeah.
that aspect. But I do think, yeah, eventually, I don't know. I don't really know what your edge would be. Like, I could like see something. I forget if someone posted it, but basically they were just like, ChatGPT has this new feature where you could ask it to like do stuff on the internet for you. So they were just like, hey, like check Target and see if XYZ is on sale. And
Yeah.
like it wasn't like great or whatever, but you know, in a year, I mean, maybe it's just scraping your favorite beauty site, or hey, let me know when I don't know,
Yeah.
Walgreens is having the 30% off sale. And then instead of, you just never go to Walgreens, you just wait for this thing to send you a text message or whatever.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. For one, something that comes to mind is that this swings the pendulum back to being very advantageous for RA, right?
Mm.
Because I think that provides opportunity. Two, I think the people that they're either in denial or just not willing to adapt will get left behind to some capacity. Like anything, I do think things take longer than we usually expect them to take, you know what I mean, before this like really affects it. But I will say too, though, the sourcing part of it, yes. But a lot of times you win on Amazon because a customer wants a product tomorrow, and Amazon is currently and for the foreseeable future the only way to get it to them tomorrow. You know, so that's why you can win on the arbitrage pricing there. So it's not even an inefficiency in, it's just a convenience play. It's just a convenience play. And sometimes that is a nice chunk of, you know, great example. For instance, like you have to spend $150 on a site. So you buy 10 of it something, right? But if you just, the customer only wants one, well, they can't buy it for 15 on the site, but they can pay 25 on Amazon, includes free shipping, get the one unit tomorrow. Right. So that's a discrepancy too. So like, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see. I think people need to be aware that, like, to some capacities, I kind of feel like it's going to replace VAs. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, if you can articulate whatever language is necessary, like, I can't see how that wouldn't replace a sourcing VA, you know, but that's not my expertise. But I'm just like, again, I know enough to know that I need to know more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, like when the agent stuff comes, and like you said, this stuff may take like way longer than we think. But I think the thing with the AI thing is when it comes, it's like here. Like it's
Yeah.
not, you're not going to see like a slow movement to AI. Like right now it is, but there's really just not been a lot of progress aside from, you know, like the big language models and stuff. But if as soon as there's agents where it's like you can launch an agent to do a specific task, and if it fails, then you just fix it. And like you can just fix this agent over and over until it can just repeat these tasks and use its own brain. Because they're like, if you can create an agent with a 200 IQ that can do these tasks, I don't see how that doesn't massively help you. And like you said, replace VAs. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
even going to just replace VAs. That'll replace American employees, like people
Right.
that sit behind the desk all day and do whatever. You know, if you could just program something to do it for you constantly and be adaptable and learn. Like when
Right.
you get this output, you need to figure out how to get this output
Right.
instead. That will happen. I watched a video about it, some like professor talking about it. Like whenever these agents are here, it's going to be like all over because people will go, you can make an agent that's like, build an app, a social media app like TikTok that will hit 1 million downloads on the app store. And it's like, it'll go build the app and it's like, nope, didn't work. Do it again, do it again, do it again. And it's like, you're just launching companies nonstop, like everything you need to launch a company and just breaking it down into a 1 hour process. So
Yeah.
I don't know
Crazy.
how close that stuff is, but that seems scary.
Yeah. I was even thinking another like example, just tying it back to Amazon, is like, I wonder if I could, you know, over the years, I've accumulated tons of storefronts that I keep in a Google sheet. Tell me what is different today than yesterday. You know, even just that. Like,
Mm.
so what new items of theirs have hit today, right? Instead of me having to scroll through their catalog and being like, I don't recognize that, or you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like, I definitely think like out of stock, discontinued. I don't know. I think there's a lot. And I'm sure somebody will capitalize and tie it into an excellent sourcing product or products for OA sellers.
Yeah, the reading the data on it. I've said that to everybody that talks about OA. I'm like, just figure out how to do that because I know it works. Because when I was running Facebook ads, there was a guy, I did a call with this guy, and he told me, okay, look at all these metrics, write them all down, then you'll see your best performing ad. Well, I'm lazy, so I'm just like, I'm gonna put this into like Cloud or ChatGPT or whatever, and then prompt it to spit out what he needs. And the numbers were the exact same. He went over the numbers and he's like, okay, these are all good. I'm like, I didn't do that. It took me 1 minute in ChatGPT. So if you can feed it in data, I think it can give you pretty good stuff. Now you're going to have to feed a lot of data. That's where it comes tricky, but you can do it. You know, storefronts, and then you probably download a bunch of API data from Keep a Product Finder. Stumble my words, but you can download all that and you should be able to get some type of output there.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. It'll definitely impact it, though. No doubt about it.
Yep. What else you got? Did you, John, you say he's mentioned having questions for us? You got anything for us? We haven't talked in a pretty long time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was asking you. I asked you off camera. I was just curious what you were up to, and I know you talked to me about that. And let me ask you this, Drew. Where do you stand? I don't want to say, do you miss Amazon, but like, are there things now that you're out of it that you're like, maybe I took that for granted. Like, this was really nice about Amazon. And going back in time, like forget the fact that you could get your lump sum for the inventory and your exit. Like, could you see yourself, if you could do it over again, would you say, yeah, maybe I'd do it and just make a quick 5K a month or something like that? Or like, you happy with your decision?
Oh yeah, I would have outsourced it. I said this recently on the podcast. I wish I would have I don't even care if it was $5,000 a month, just enough to churn credit card points and have $1,000 coming in or 2,000, whatever it would be, but to where I didn't do anything. Like literally, I only message people once a week or whatever, just have like a team do it. I just don't really have the personality for that. I'm not much of a manager. I'm not somebody that really run that stuff. So in hindsight, I wish I would have, but if I had to do it over, I definitely wouldn't because I didn't do it in the first place. But I think I miss the credit card points and spending the money. I think it's all like a dopamine game. It's fun, which obviously I'm trading crypto now, so that's the highest dopamine you can get. But yeah, there's something about, I don't know, reselling products that you get a little hit from. So I do miss that a bit, but I don't think I made the wrong decision because I think it's gotten harder. And I think that I was good, but I wasn't motivated. So I don't think I'd be motivated enough to grind the same way I was without seeing more returns. I think I would have just been in a struggle all the time.
Totally. No, I get that. And I actually really can relate to the managing thing. Like, I have no interest in hiring VAs, outsourcing. If that means that I'm at a certain level, like, I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that's right. That's just, I think it's good to know who you are. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah. So, and John, I don't know if you're comfortable sharing numbers, but I know you said 2,300 videos. So like, I have no idea. Like, what does that equate to on a monthly basis? And like, I know that grows exponentially. Like, I get that,
Yeah, so it varies between all that kind of stuff. So it also depends on like how high ticket your stuff is. So I'd probably say like, I don't know, between like 4 and 5 grand ish.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, just depending on that. And then you have a lot of other benefits. That's why I like the influencer program so much. So like that's like one bucket. And then, I have this clothing brand. They send me like 30 pieces of clothing maybe every other month. So then I get clothing that I personally want and would wear. And they pay me like, let's say anywhere from $20 to $25 per piece to make a video. So the more and more stuff I get, like doing that kind of stuff, I've sold a bunch of stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Like I have a liquidator to buy all this stuff. So there's just so many different like revenue streams. So like the influencer program went away tomorrow. Like, yeah, that would suck, but I'm not out any money. I can still do brand deals where like this clothing company, like I'd say, you know what, like I lost my account, like, but you're more than welcome to post this on, the Amazon page or whatever. And then they could do that and I could make money that way. I just see there's so many more ways to make money. And then I don't know, I feel like you've probably seen this before, but like once you get a taste for something and something else really starts working, the headaches become more big with Amazon. Restricted eSIN is like not such a big deal, but then it's like, I'm so tired of this. Like, I just don't have the energy to deal with this. I'm making all this money over here doing something else that I enjoy much more. It's like, why am I even doing this anymore? Kind of thing. So starting to get that for me. So yeah, it's just like once you taste something else, you're just like, okay, like this is it. I've been doing it about a year now. So I'm like super comfortable. I'm just like, all right, like I've seen a year of this. A lot of people say it's going to get saturated, but I don't think a lot of people are going to make 2,300 videos, or like put in that amount of work. So that's what I really like about the program. And I just love doing it.
No, that's great. And it costs you $0. It's just time.
It costs $0. There's $0. There's no software. And then, just a lot of just like the whole Amazon thing. Like for me, it's just, I don't know. It's just too much. And just kind of seeing where everything's trending is just like not where I want to be. And I think we're seeing a lot of it. Like you mentioned before with like the leads list, like you sell out and now you didn't sell out. And I
Yeah.
think we're seeing that too with like software companies. Like you use Inventory Lab or
Mhm.
yeah, Inventory Labs. It's like that's dropping in price, and then you have all the tactical arbitrage and all this other stuff. You're getting like 5 softwares that used to cost you like $700. Now they're gonna give it to you $67. Like,
Yeah.
like why are they doing that? Obviously, there's
Yeah.
like massive drop off. So yeah, it's different world. But yeah, I love doing the influencer
Let me
program.
ask you a question. I think someone else, or me, but also other sellers might. I've heard you mention this before. You work with a local liquidator.
Mhm.
How did that come to be? And because I've thought about that. I'm like, rather than relist all of these, like one stop shop, give me 20% of like market value, whatever, you know?
Yeah, I need to make a YouTube video on this or maybe I'll just clip this because people ask me all the time. So basically, I had found him when I was doing bulk books. So I get a lot of DVDs, CDs. A lot of them weren't profitable, and he
Mhm.
ran like garage, like flea market sales. So I posted an ad or not an ad, but like a listing on Facebook Marketplace, and then eventually, like I went through like 20 people, and eventually he was the one who would like buy consistently. So I always tell people like basically just take a picture of like a bunch of boxes and be like, hey, just say what you do. Hey, I sell on Amazon. I get returns. Most of the stuff is just opened or not bad or anything like that. I'm looking for someone to buy all of it. Like I'll give you a really good price and then just see who reaches out to you
Yeah.
and do it before you need it. You could just be like, hey, like I'm not ready yet, but like when this is in place. And then you just have to work out a deal that makes sense for you. For like the DVDs and CDs, like they were literally trash to me. So to get
Yeah.
10 cents per DVD, or eventually we did like a Gaylord price. But for the influencer stuff, he's usually getting like stuff that like one, I don't want to list on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or any of that kind of stuff, or it's like basically under like $20-$30. So we came to the conclusion of he could pretty much move it. So I'll charge him $2 per item, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's so much more work for me to have to like list it on Facebook to get $10 or whatever. And
Yeah.
then once he recoups his money, whatever he gets, we split in half.
Nice.
So it's kind of like a win-win. Like the
Yeah.
last batch I gave him, I think he gave me like $400. And then he's like, yeah, like I went over about 200, so I have another $100 for you. So it's like,
Cool.
it just works for me.
Yeah, I've
Yep.
seen some overstock stores by me, and I'm gonna just walk into them and show them, like, hey, legitimate stuff, not opened. Like, let me know if you want to work.
It's
The
so much
easiest way
easier. Like,
easy way you can do it is just get on eBay and type in an item you have and take your zip code and like for like near me, and you can look at all the sellers near you that are selling that same item, and then just do like I did like a 25-mile radius, and then message them all, have like a template out, and then you can get them that way. That's like you could do that right after this pod, and
Yeah,
you'll find
yeah,
like
yeah,
50.
yeah. That's a good
Because
idea.
you have a bunch of people that are already aware of the market, and then the time the radius is like they're near you. They have their location set like that.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. I'm gonna check that out.
I wanted to say one thing. What you were
Yeah.
asking about earlier about the Amazon stuff. I know that you were one of the first podcasts I did, like go on your podcast, and there's a clip out of me that I just saw this somewhere. Maybe it was on my phone. You were like, "What do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Or what do you want out of life?" Something like that, some deep thing. And I was like, I just want to be like the richest person that I know or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was a conclusion that, like, at the time during that podcast, I was doing, X amount on Amazon. But I was like, that's not going to get me to where I want to be. Like, what that answer. So that was another reason I left it too, is because I was just like, for me to get there with Amazon, I'd have to get somebody that could give me $1 million loan probably every 6 months. So
Yeah.
that was a big, that's why I'm not really regretting it, because I'm just like, okay, that was my original goal. I'm still sticking to that to an extent.
Yeah, no, totally. That's why when I see I know it's rare, but let's just hypothetically say a supercar and someone's selling it, I'm like, dude, this ain't it. I think that, as I mentioned, it can be a great way to not have to go get a normal job, right? It can be a great way if you want to be a stay-at-home parent. Until you have a kid, it's hard to really understand how valuable that is. So, like, I wouldn't go to an office for triple what I make on Amazon. Like, literally, I mean that, truthfully. Like, it would be very difficult. So for that, it's great, right? And I've even thought about this. I don't like say it because I don't want it to come across the wrong way. The 20-year-old, 19, 22, it doesn't matter the actual age. The young person that has nothing to lose, lives inexpensively, maybe even lives with his or her parents, and goes freaking balls to the walls, maxes out credit cards, but knows what they're doing, right? Like I'm not just saying be an idiot, but like if you understand it, let's just say shit hits the fan and you go bankrupt. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. A couple of years later, the credit's restored and you had nothing to lose. So as someone who's at 37, I would strongly encourage the younger people, and whether it's this or any other endeavor, you have such an advantage that you have nothing to lose. Like if I had nothing to lose right now, I could scale my way up to millions of dollars every year in sales. No question about it. But I'm not willing. I have a family. Like there's no way. So you have an advantage on me if you don't, right? And I would just say like, it's hard to fully understand until you get older. You're so free when you're so young. And I know Amazon skews young. So if anyone does hear this, like, and they're on the fence, I'm not saying be an idiot, but if you have nothing to lose, you got nothing to lose. Like, why not go for it? Whatever that thing is, you know?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
What else, John? You got any more cues? We're about an hour and 10. We can keep going. Or do you hitting a time wall here?
Yeah, I'll be wrapping up. I gotta go back to the kid thing about staying at home.
I have one more question for you. What'd you end up doing with the beer bust in Florida? Because you were thinking about getting rid of it, or
yeah, I don't remember when we spoke, but I brought the vehicle from Florida up to Asheville. So Asheville is the sole market with 2 vehicles now. This is a really unique and good market. And I will say, as I mentioned earlier, the like Hurricane Helene like wrecked Asheville. I don't know if you guys saw it on the news or whatever, but certain parts like annihilated. And so that's kind of put a dent in things. Things are starting to come back, but long term, I think this goes back to opportunity cost. And actually what you were just saying, Drew, like when I think about the ceiling and the upside, right? I'm really big on things take mental space, right? So whether it's something that you make 10 grand a year on or 200K on, it's still going to consume mental space and you only have a certain amount of space available. So when I think about that, I'm like, the ceiling on that is only so high. I think it could be great. I think I can be completely hands off, but there's always going to be repairs that are needed on the vehicles. There's always a wrap that needs to be touched up. There's always a driver that, you know what I mean? And so for me, I've thought about what can I get for this if I sell this as a package? And then what could I do with that money? And would it be more enjoyable, more aligned, maybe more beneficial than continuing with that, right? And I think the answer to that is yes. So I actually think what I'm going to do is not now because of Asheville going through it. I think I'm going to test the waters and selling it as like a unit and having a nice little chunk come in and then get to kind of reevaluate. I'm really, part of me so badly would love to sell that and sell through my Amazon stuff and just see collectively what I have. And then I can I think something's really nice about like a refresh. You know what I mean? Like a clean slate, the way that people get hyped about January 1. And it's kind of hard with Amazon or just anything that just lingers, you know? So part of me fantasizes about selling it all, taking a step back, having some breathing room, and then say, okay, this is what I have to play with, plus my knowledge, my skill set. Like, what do I want to do now? And by the way, I can go back to Amazon, by the way. It's not like I couldn't. So that's something I've thought about too. I don't know that I will because I'm in a good groove with it, but I've certainly thought about it.
So yeah, that's exactly what Seth said just a few days ago. He said that, like he used the same language you did too, which is crazy.
Did he say what he'd like to do outside of this, or where does he stand on it? I'll have to go watch it.
Real estate stuff too. I mean, this was like a very similar vibe. Like it was like same type of podcast, really. Like we talked about the same stuff. Like he's doing like lower flips of houses. Like it was really interesting. You'll have to listen to it.
Check that out. Yeah, no, I mean, I actually think that Amazon sellers, especially good ones, would do very well with real estate. It's just a more high ticket item. You're understanding what you have to buy it for. You're understanding what it's going to typically sell for. You're comparing it to how much stock does your competition have, aka how much inventory is there in this neighborhood. You know what I mean? You're factoring in fees. You're factoring in contingency. It's like buying low and selling high across any industry has a tremendous amount of overlap, right? So it's kind of like, why not take that skill set and apply it to a higher ticketed item? You know, you do 3 a year instead of selling 100 units a day, and you get those right, and it could be more advantageous, you know? So
I like that idea a lot. I've like fantasized about that. Like, ooh, like what kind of like higher ticket flips could I do?
yeah,
But yeah, who knows? Maybe real estate.
yeah. So that's all I got for you guys.
All right.
All right.
Where can
Great
everyone
seeing
find
guys.
you?
Yeah, so Duke does Amazon, Instagram, YouTube, the main 1 and 2, and that's it.
All right. Cool. Thanks for being here. Guys, go follow him, and we'll see you in the next episode. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.
See you guys.